Back in 1994, XCOM UFO Defense released to a warm cult welcome. A difficult and unique mashup of strategy, tactics, and base building. It burned a distinct mark in the video game history which would linger for years to come. Subsequent titles and expansions followed though, with less and less critical and commercial success until the series seemed dead and buried, one more old-school oddity doomed to be forgotten. Enter XCOM Enemy Unknown, set to reboot the series with a modern aim. The title was a definite commercial success and released to much critical acclaim, eventually spawning an integrated expansion with the subtitle Enemy Within. Does the game hold up to the original or deserve its widespread critical praise? Let's back up a bit. Enemy Within is set following the opening of multiple alien incursions across the globe, putting you in command of a small group organized and overseen by a collective of countries and regions who decide whether to support, invest, or disregard you based on their interests and how well you protect their general region. It's up to you to decide upon the focus of resources and coordinate troops to eventually counter the alien attacks. The story doesn't have over much to it, but there's a good bit of detail in the lore they develop, describing to you the basic anatomy and functions of different aliens and technologies as you research them, which pad things out well. And that really is the story, going from technology to technology until eventually you are strong enough to take out the alien mothership central to threatening Earth. I tease a bit about the why, but the question essentially goes unanswered for sequel bait, which kinda retcons the majority of this game's story. Basically, the story here doesn't matter so much as the lore. It's about learning more and more, not about what happens next, for good or for bad. Enemy Within, in addition to a couple other DLC, adds in a few other side stories featuring plots by an opposing shadow organization named Exalt, who side with the aliens and frequently clash with you. There are more notable attempts at a real story and characters, though aren't especially noteworthy by themselves. No, what the game is really about is the allocating of your resources and how that eventually plays out in battle. Generally, this is made very simple and easy, from base building down to shooting. The game seemed to have plenty of options to start with. Unfortunately, these options don't tend to develop very far, and that beginning where everything feels open and difficult is roundabout where it also stops being so. At a basic level, this comes down to the fact that they removed the strategy aspect of the strategy tactical base building thing they had going in the original. Allow me to explain, beginning with the base building. To begin the game, you determine which continent you wish to start with, giving you a nice little bonus to this or that, which can easily help make or break your entire campaign. From there, you are dropped into an underground base with a few bare structures and plenty of room to improve within grid spots you must dig through and clear out. You're given various menus which lead you to your research department, which unlocks newer technologies and bonuses to help you along. The engineering department, where you'll buy those technologies and upgrades. The hangar, where you will manage where your interceptors base out of and what they are equipped with. A situation room, where you can find a general view of panic levels around the world, sell items such as alien corpses you acquire for a quick buck, and in the expansion, begin covert operations against Exalt. A barracks where you can recruit, customize, and equip your soldiers, and finally, mission control, where you will very literally pass the time. There's a bit more to it, a couple options which open up for development within the base as you build certain structures, but that's the basic gist of it. That's perfectly fine to open up with. At the same time, there's so much which seems to be missing. For instance, you can only recruit soldiers, but must depend on rewards to receive scientists and engineers, who speed up research and development times respectively, and a certain number of which are required for certain projects. On top of which, their membership is limited to basic statistics, while you can customize each individual soldier. As well, despite there being a seemingly endless slew of projects to work on, you cannot truly manage the workload. It's all or nothing, one project at a time, no matter how many scientists or engineers you have. Manage to get yourself 80 scientists, they can still only perform one autopsy at a time, if quickly. Also, unlike the original game, you are limited to the one base you start with, and all operations throughout the game are based out of that singular location, with a tiny exception being that you can send interceptors to different continents. Worse than that, though, is that you have a single Sky Ranger troop transport to last you the entirety of the game. It will never be upgraded or destroyed, you can never buy a second. The reason for this is sort of an artificial difficulty. See, a couple set times per month you'll have an abduction mission, which will have aliens causing havoc at usually 3 different locations around the globe. Each of the 3 will offer a different reward, either money, an experienced soldier, or a couple scientists or engineers, offered up should you successfully stave off the abduction, on top of the panic reduction for the region. If you fail, panic will rise across the entire continent. Should that panic max out, you get a coin flip whether or not the country abandons support. 1 Sky Ranger means 1 choice, meaning optimally 1 country has panic lowered while 2 continents have it raised, all throughout the length of the campaign. It's frustrating to say the least that the majority of the difficulty within most of the game is set purely because you can't have a second troop transport. Altogether, this effectively destroys much of the strategic element the game could have had. The game is most known for, however, is the missions. Send your squad into the thick of it and accomplish a preset goal, usually of neutralizing every alien on the map with a couple exceptions littered about. Your soldiers begin painfully weak, with armor which may look convincing, but I secretly believe is paper mache, and weapons which have trouble hitting the broadside of a barn, and probably wouldn't do much more than chip the paint off it. Manage to get them a couple kills and they'll promote them to one of 4 classes: Support, Assault, Heavy, and Sniper, with each having a couple lines of abilities to choose from as they further advance. Eventually the game opens up further options such as robots, gene modding, psychics, and robotic bodies called mechs, but more on that later. Functionally, Support is just another guy. Heavies are good at the beginning and somewhat functional at the end due mostly to the rocket launcher they tote around. Assaults can wreak some real damage if you manage to get them close, and Snipers are gods amongst men, if you can keep them alive long enough to gain the squad sight ability, which allows them to target any enemy your squad can see. To begin the game, you can only throw 4 troops in a mission at a time, though eventually you can unlock the ability for 2 more. But this is a whole lot of information without describing how it plays out. Battles take place over something of a turn-based system. Each of your soldiers can move, after which they can perform an action or move further out. If the action is performed first, they cannot move after. When all your soldiers are done moving and acting, it's the aliens go. So back and forth the game goes until one side is neutralized from the battlefield. It's an easy game to get the hang of, with your actions color-coded and the game starting you off with a bare few abilities to work with. It's move, cover, shoot, the occasional grenade thrown in, and if you crunch your numbers, a decision to hunker down for a cover bonus or overwatch to fire on a moving enemy which comes into range, should your soldier not have used up all their actions by the end. Actions against the enemy, typically shooting, include a random number generator which determines hit probability, which is affected by a wide range of circumstances including cover, range, soldier accuracy, target defense, height in accordance to target, and a range of other things you can look through if you're obsessive enough, all which add up to a percentage you are given before the shot is taken. There's further RNG for critical hits and damage given and yada yada. I'm just gonna come out and say it. The RNG to the game is shit. Once upon a time I played through the game, never taken a shot less than 80%, as in my minimum, not average, shot percentage shown was 80%. Despite that, by the end of the game, my overall accuracy was 70%. That's a major discrepancy, which makes the problem twofold here. See, RNG ideally works over a large number of chances. We're given a 50% chance to hit something, but are given 3, 4, 10, however many tries, and eventually this number evens out. This game doesn't work like that, however. Without any special abilities working for them, each soldier has a shot per turn with 6 soldiers at your max. Thus, any one shot can be a coin flip rather than an average, where one miss can have disastrous consequences on a given mission, which in turn can cripple a campaign. That 70% though is an average, one made from thousands of shots across a long campaign. In other words, the game is running an RNG well outside of ideal circumstances, and, to top it off, the numbers they give you are not indicative of results. This is frustrating game design to say the least. There's also issues of the game being very obviously consoleized. Controls and UI were designed with the controller in mind, while the mouse and keyboard setup should be able to easily click through environments often have to be fought against, most especially with dealing with changes in terrain height. This isn't an accuracy in controls I simply have not seen in other tactical games. Perhaps the worst aspect, however, is the game's snowballs. Much can be forgiven, see. The game can be frustrating, yes, the controls can be awkward, sure, but these aren't issues which can't be overcome or limited with little care and precision. What can't be overcome is how the game becomes a cakewalk. The beginning is easily the most difficult section of the game, one that lasts for a nice little chunk of time. As you unlock new weapon and armor and gain new abilities, however, the aliens do not keep up. Sure, they come out with new species or versions of existing species, but these advancements are limited at best compared to the abilities you earn. And this is without even mentioning the research you can do, creating genetically enhanced soldiers able to essentially be invisible, or mechs who can shoot enormously powerful shots with one hand, one hit kill most anything with a punch from the other, and heal nearby troops to boot. Or psychics who can straight up mind control enemies. By the end of the game, your most powerful soldiers can solo most missions, and you've got a team of 6. Thing is, this doesn't begin happening at the end. The first month of the game is the most difficult and pretty well determines the outcome of the rest of the game. And from there, it eventually becomes more and more stable and, well, more and more boring. The final issue I'll point out with regards to the combat portion of the game is the missions. There's a decent variety of options here, from bomb disposal to saving civilians and a couple other special cases thrown in here and there. Unfortunately, the vast majority is simple abductions and alien landings and crashes, which consist of you going to a location where the civilian populace has long been cleared out for the purpose of killing everything. This isn't terrible on its own, but the missions became painfully repetitive without any objectives to spice them up, in no small part due to the limited map variety and how little enemies functionally advance. Much of this, in turn, is a problem in which the game is focused around your being able to kill enemies in a turn unless they manage to do damage, when an ideal focus would have been an extended clash of abilities between 2 advanced superpowers. With all that said, you probably think I despise XCOM Enemy Within. After all, I've spent the better part of this talking about the number of, often major, issues it has. Actually, no. Despite everything, I kind of enjoy the game. It's not the prettiest of titles out, though nothing near what the original was. It doesn't contain any sort of brilliant writing or soundtrack, and the gameplay has major issues going for it. Hell, I didn't even talk about the interception missions and their painful lack of interaction. Despite all of that, it's very easy to see why others enjoy it. Why even I put dozens upon dozens of hours into it. It's accessible. Good and for bad, it's an easy game to pick up and play, and despite how overpowered it makes you, it's fun developing these new technologies, earning those in promotions, equipping soldiers, and watching them put their equipment and skill into action to overcome that early difficulty. Now, the developers could have, and very well should have, opened up the game beyond this early accessibility, much like most games easy win to take off the kid gloves late. But they didn't, and that's unfortunate. Hopefully down the line we'll see games which can take advantage of what this title did right, and learn from much of what it did wrong. As to XCOM Enemy Within, if you have little interest in tactical games or turn-based titles, or are a gamer resistant to blatant casualization or consoleization, you won't find much to love here. If you have at least a passing interest in the genre, however, this offers up an easy place to start.